And I want to welcome Tremeur Denigot and thank him for joining us today. He is working with the Education for Climate Coalition, and he's going to talk to us about this work, this project, and more generally about education on green transition in Europe. So again, welcome to everybody, and I'm going to let Tremeur take the stand.
Thank you, Louise. Hello, everyone. Very glad to meet you, even if I don't see you. I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but before I want to present myself, so I'm Tremeur Denigot. As you can hear, I'm French. I'm joining today from the Great Brittany, even if I'm based in Brussels. I'm working at the Joint Research Center, which is the scientific department of the European Commission, to make it short. And we co-developed, co-designed what you see behind me, which is an online collaborative platform, which is, by the way, just a tool to support a community of practice on education for the green transition. We designed that and we started working 3 years ago together with the Director General on Education, of course, the DG EAC, who had the political lead and guidance for that program. But I'm going to explain a bit the context so that you understand better what we're trying to do. So let me share my screen. That's it. That's it. So I'm going to talk to you about what the EU is doing regarding education for the green transition. I'm playing with the words there in the title from the very beginning. I would like you to understand that when we're talking about education for the green transition, we are also taking, in a way, about education in transition. So it's for and in the transition. So you know that, I will be very short, but that's the frame, the political frame. Of course, when the Green Deal was designed with that very ambitious target of climate neutrality by 2050, the idea was, of course, not just to ensure the transition towards that sort of target regarding industry, economy, but also society. We won't make it if society is not prepared. So we need to develop the right skills in order to have the professionals that will back up, of course, that transition, but also the citizens are ready to change their behaviors. If not, we won't make it. That's as simple as that. But of course, education is not of European responsibility. So it's a sort of limitations in a way, but doesn't mean that we can't do things, trying to converge towards that common objective. So of course, the member states themselves are very keen in trying to have common approaches sometimes, even if, of course, they will then localize and adapt it the way they want, rightly. Subsidiarity applying, of course. So most of the programs nowadays, and also the one linked to education, have among their targets something related to the transitions. That's the case, for instance, of that big frame when it comes to education policies, which is the European education area. The very program I'm in charge of, which is Education for Climate Coalition, is a flagship program of that of the EEA. So as you know, but I mean, this is something you know, the green and digital transition, of course, are among the targets and objectives of the EEA. So this is what you can, I mean, that slide is important because it gives you an overview. So here you've got that overview of the various sections. And stop me if something happens. So these are the various tools. So you have some sort of political tools, I should say. The country recommendation is one of these. Methodological tool like the GreenComp that you know, but I will say still a couple of words. A community of practice, which is something quite kind of new. And obviously working groups, which is also very much interesting because it produces a lot of research on financial tools that you know better than me, Horizon and Erasmus. All right. So let's dig in and see a bit. So this, you know, I guess, because it was adopted in June 2022, drafted by the Commission, B2 unit, if you want to know it. It's a council recommendation, so by definition, it's just a recommendation. So if they want, the member state's gonna sit on it, but they are not supposed to because we sign it. And it's an interesting document because it defines obviously a frame where they tell us that they do consider that green education is a priority, and that they should unlock some investment dedicated to that sort of education. But beyond that, it goes also into the details of what could be done, also regarding really the very type of teaching and learning that should be adapted in order to promote the green competences. And this is where it's really interesting to my view, because immediately you understand that when it comes to go back to my title, when it comes to green education, it's not that we want to have and find the ways to promote green competences because we need it for the green transition. It's also about very much the fact that to get there, we need to adapt our education and training system. And maybe the way they are being organized nowadays in terms of teaching and learning, it will be very difficult to produce and to promote the green competences if we want to have more experiential learning, if we want to have more team teaching, if we want to have more project-based learning, etc., etc. That means, by definition, that we need to adapt the way we're teaching and learning. So that's an interesting thing, which is also a way to say, okay, when it comes to green education, in fact, we're talking about education transformation a lot. We're talking about education innovation. And that's, to me, of course, an education expert, something that I find very, very interesting. So the European Commission also set up a series. Yeah, that's weird, Anouis, because that bar of tools doesn't disappear, and I don't understand. Working group on the school learning for sustainability. And it's very tiny, I know, but you have various topics there that are tackled. Can be about the leadership, school leadership regarding learning for sustainability. It can be about something I think very interesting, the articulation there is or there is not between the twin transitions, so digital on green transition, etc., etc. So you see also eco-anxiety and things like that. So these are guidelines in a way. Of course, again, nothing binding, but that research produced looking at what's happening in the EU is very interesting, because we need more than ever to do that sort of benchmarking, or to compare what we're doing. First, because I could share that with you, because I've been working now for 3 years on that topic, and there's an explosion of initiatives and activities. Even if the very term of education for sustainable development was brought by the UNESCO now 30 years ago, something like that, you can see that it's a bit of a struggle really to get there. And on the last years, and I should say in particular the last 5 years, especially after the pandemic in particular, there's really an acceleration, because first there's maybe more awareness about the very fact that we need to transform and adapt our education system, but also because there's a sort of dynamic also produced, I think, with the pandemic, but also maybe the more broader political and geopolitical context, where you see also an acceleration in industry, and then coming from there, of course, the need to adapt in terms of skills. And sometimes you have industry saying we're struggling, of course, there's shortages, we don't get the right people, skills are missing, etc. So it's interesting. Have a look. Everything, of course, is fully accessible, transparent. You see everything on the EAC website, which is very well done. You just have to put in Google maybe green education and European Commission, and you will get there. And it's a sort of portal, and you will access all the detail of the various policies and initiatives that are linked to green education. That one, for instance, was on I used it recently in a conference because it was on vocational education training, so which is a bit at the margin of what they're doing, because they focus very much on school, but it's interesting, and they repeat, of course, something which is kind of obvious, but I mean, it's even better when you say it out loud. But you have to combine, of course, the training happening in the company and what's happening in school, because by developing the synergies, we might certainly promote better green competences, which is also what another working group is doing. That one is a working group on vocational education and training on the green transition, led by the DG Employment, which is always a struggle. You see also the European Commission, you've got the same thing in the national government, where most of the time what regards vocational training is dealt by ministries that are different from the ministries dealing with education. That doesn't help sometimes to have so many silos, but let's try to bridge these silos. And that working group produced recently a very interesting research. So it's not more than a research, it's a compendium of good or inspiring, as they say, practices. So it's super interesting because you get a sort of mapping of various interesting initiatives happening out there regarding vocational training. I took that from, so I hope there's not the gray zone because I still see my toolbar at the top. Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. So just a few stats that you can find back in that study to also remind you something which is very interesting. Because we don't have to be in the constant auto-congratulations about what we're doing, so that, yeah, we're doing the right thing. So there are a lot of things happening. That's true. We are going towards the right direction. That's absolutely true. The council recommendation is helps us a great deal because it helps also member states to realize that something has got to be done. And of course, they should certainly increase collaboration. That being said, there's still a lot to do, a lot. And when you see just that screen, for instance, that's interesting. When it comes to, okay, you got to choose among different statements, what is the one that most accurately reflects the situation in your country regarding to green skills. And you see that the first that comes is there is no shared understanding of green skills. So we're still there in a way. And then I will talk about GreenComp. So maybe GreenComp might help us precisely to try to have a common understanding of what we're talking about when we're talking about green skills. Another thing here is that when it comes to your country regarding the situation about inclusion of green elements, common on core green element in the programs of vocational education training on curricula, you see that the first one is about, okay, it's in the process of being developed. So still a lot to do. And I'm insisting on that because 3 years ago, we were still thinking about really trying to raise awareness, etc. Now, a lot of things is happening. There's a lot of implementation of policies and initiatives. It's the right time also to begin the assessment of what we're doing. So to make it short and very blunt, does it work? And that study is a very interesting one, really. I think it might be helpful for you. This is why I'm going to spend a bit of time on various slides here. It's something that was published less than 2 months ago, I think. Time is flying, so I don't know. I think something like that. It's the new RDC report on learning for sustainability on Europe. Europe, not EU. We're talking about 38 or 49 countries there. And it's about building competences. So often, do we build competences? Because that's what we want to do in supporting teachers in school. And it's a very interesting report. So first, I'm starting from there. You can find that quote in the very introduction of the report. And I put in green the thing that we should have a common agreement of, okay, we're going to talk about building green competences. So if it's about that, then we need to embed sustainability competences in the curriculum. And we need to do that in a holistic way. The second thing is that we need to focus on one of the most important leverages when it comes to education. Whatever topic you want to develop or skills you want to develop, you need to focus very much on teachers, on school leaders training. Super important. And then the last thing is that when it comes to learning for sustainability, you need to have a concept that has been largely developed and backed up by UNESCO, which is having a whole institution approach, a whole school approach, but even beyond that, a whole institution approach. You understand immediately that when it comes to sustainable education, when it comes to sustainability, just sustainability, you need to have an approach which is about transversality. Because if not, it won't work. Give you another example. You know, of course, the key competences we're using on most of education system nowadays base themselves on these key competences designed at European level. There's not a key competence on sustainability. And there was a discussion about that. Why not? Adding a competence just for sustainability? And the answer is we don't need it because sustainability is everywhere. So you can tackle and deal for each of these key competences, sustainability. So trying to have that sort of transversal approach, horizontal approach, going through sectors, disciplines, ministries, as I was saying before, is precisely what we're trying to do. So it's very much about interdisciplinarity or even transdisciplinarity. So let's go into the detail. First slide, you see there's always, as you know, in the half part of the bottle, which is empty, the other one is full. Let's start by the full one. The good news is that almost in their study of these 39 countries, half of the education system set sustainability for in teachers' education program. So that's good, which also means that half of them are not doing that, by the way. Another thing is that, is there a support for that whole school approach I was talking about before? Yes, the concept is widespread. Then I could also be a bit more negative, saying that's very positive. But does that turn into concrete actions? That's another story. I'm a teacher by training. I've been teaching for 20 years in various countries in the education system. And I know for a fact that even if you decide something at policy level, you've got things coming from ministries, etc., that's one thing. But then to turn that into concrete action within the classroom, and this is where it matters, it's another story. This is the most important one to my view, because we're talking about green competences. So I was saying, does it work? So you see there, these are the competences you know, because you know the GreenComp, and Wizard told me. So you see, valuing sustainability, promoting nature, systems thinking, futures literacy, adaptability, political agency, individual and collective actions. These are important skills, competences. And you see immediately on that graph, which is quite kind of obvious, that there's a tiny problem with futures literacy. There's another one which is not as good as the other one on political agency on individual and collective actions. So think about that, because that's a super important thing. It means that we might not have all the means, and I'm saying that as a former teacher, to think about how developing or having the right tools to develop for our students the capacity to anticipate the future, the capacity also maybe even to act, and that's absolutely key. When it comes to sustainability, we need to have actors, people who are able to act and behave differently, to act as citizens and professionals. For that, we need to develop their skills related to their political agency, but also their ability to have individual and collective actions. And maybe we're not there yet. Another thing, which is that one, which is interesting, because I was talking about individual and collective action, but then the researchers went into the detail of these competences. On what appears quite rightly, you see that in green, I don't remember exactly what I evidenced, but you just have to read, is that in fact, it's okay-ish about individual action, but when it comes to collective action, not that much. And one of the explanations they put there is maybe the teachers know in their also assessment tools how to assess and promote individual action. It's much more complicated in a way, maybe because the way we're teaching also is not that adapted to that, to assess and promote collective actions, when in fact we need that also when it comes to the green transition. So you got my point. So all in all, there are very positive things. I won't read all that, of course, you can read it. And I've just put in green, I think, the important elements. But when you see the conclusion, which is at the bottom of that slide, you understand that there are still things to be done. There's still a need, you see, for comprehensive policies to promote sustainability in European schools. So, and stronger actions to support teachers. An example for us note that you can see, maybe read in the paragraph above, is that all teachers will tell you that, okay, I can do what you're asking me to do, but I need resources for that. And resources is time. If I don't have the time, I won't do it. And also the possibility to do that with my colleagues, for instance, because if not, you're telling me, oh, we should promote projects that are very much based on interdisciplinarity, etc. But I don't have in my timetable the possibility to work with my colleagues. How do I do that, right? Or then, of course, and this is where you come, financial support. Erasmus projects, of course, are very nice, but not all the teachers are doing Erasmus projects. So I want to develop something specific. I want to take my students and get out of the schools and do something which is really on the ground, where they will have a wonderful experience, but for that I need a bit of money, financial support. And what the ERDC report is telling us is that maybe that is not at the level of what we really need. So it's an interesting study, really. So this, I don't have to tell you that, but it's super important. It's one of the biggest financial tools we're using. And of course, we can green Erasmus to incentivize green education. And of course, we doubled the funding, so that helps. A lot of very interesting Erasmus projects are on project managers of Erasmus project are with us on the Education for Climate Coalition. I will, in a minute, get there. And Louise, I'm okay with the time, huh? It's cool? Still a bit of time? Okay, fine. So you know that among the various priorities, as I said before, for the EEA, green is among the priorities of horizontal, priorities of the Erasmus Plus program. This is also a tool you might know, of course, which is a new one, a very good one. So the Erasmus Plus Teachers Academies. And you have, I've listed the projects that are related to green education. So they've got different acronyms, but you know that. There's one that will be with us soon. I think after the summer, we'll invite them to come to present what they're doing in one of the meetings we're doing with the Climate Education for Climate Coalition, which is the nature-based solutions in teacher education, which is a very interesting one. And then, of course, you've got the GreenComp, but you know that. So first thing you know, but it's important to remind because it's not happening every time what we're doing instruments of that sort in the European Commission. It's translated in all the EU language. That helps a great deal. And we should do that always, to my view. So you see there what you know. So 12 competences that are organized under 4 competence areas. So to make it short, one is on values, one on complexity, one on action, one on future literacy, let's say, right? So it's a complex document. In fact, it's interesting to read, to my view, the statements they put, because it's not just about the next slide, which is the competences, the descriptor. It's also about the concrete slides they produce where there are concrete situations where you see how to use GreenComp. It's very interesting. On your competences, of course, being defined. This is their working definition as the knowledge, skills, and attitude, which is also something very important because what we're talking about here is a competent-based approach, of course. So you know that. So we have a group which is fully dedicated now to GreenComp, and that's what I will say now. We've got a GreenComp community that was created and hosted by the Education for Climate Coalition. So if you're interested in these topics, you just have to join the community, and that's it. We are doing cafes, so meetings on a frequent basis every month. You can join, see what's happening there, meet interesting people. That was interesting. I will do an interview with them tomorrow, and they came, of course, to that the meetings we do with the community. It's a study that looks after case studies of implementation of GreenComp. So basically, is it used? And it's interesting because the cases are very various, very diverse. So we've got, big schemes where they implement GreenComp, and you've got also things that are more tiny. It's a very interesting analytical report, and this is where we are. Same thing. GreenComp now is 2 years old. We're beginning to have to assess a bit the way it's implemented. I'm French, as you know. I'm an education expert coming from France. And in France, for instance, they use GreenComp as one of the bases, they used it a lot, to my view, to produce their own competence framework on green education, French one, so very much based on GreenComp. So this is a very interesting case study. And this is what will help us, you remember the slide I shared with you at the beginning, to have a common agreement, a common understanding, I should say, of what we're talking about when it comes to green skills. You can play with a GreenComp game. My colleagues of the team have developed that game, which is a super easy one. It's a conversational game. You use it during an hour. So you've got a session. We can do that with teachers, trainers, but also with students. And they're playing with cards, basically. So we've got the cards that are all the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. You have the cards that are all the competences, the way they are defined by GreenComp. And you got the priorities of Education for Climate Coalition that are very basic, because one is about teacher training, promoting green competences and things like that. So it's kind of easy to use. And you play with these cards, and that trigger a conversation so that everyone could justify, oh yes, I think that SDG is interesting, and I will put it in connection with that green competence, we should develop more, etc., etc. And then you get that conversation and that something is happening. It's an interesting game, very easy. So now I finished my presentation with that point on the Education for Climate Coalition. So that's something new. It's something the Commission wasn't used to use, and we, as a matter of fact, we're doing also a sort of experimentation. That's really the mood we are having, which is iteration process. We're trying things, seeing what works, what doesn't work, all based on that's the key word, participatory approach. We do everything listening to what people are telling us, and we're trying things together, because we're there to facilitate an exchange, a collaboration, a dialogue between all the members, so that they can first share information and learn about what they're doing, which is the first thing and super important one, of course. And then if the second level of complexity, they can try to co-create solutions together. So we are there at the core of what the European Union is supposed to be about. So the European Commission is promoting the fact that we say, hey, Europeans, you should maybe try to learn about what we're doing. And to tell the truth, most of the teachers I know, they don't have time. Sometimes they don't speak English, by the way. So it's one thing to say, okay, we should promote translation, transnational sort of collaboration. It's another thing to really help that happen. And this community is also about that. Because we've got so much to learn. Guys, the learning for sustainability is something which is very recent in a way, and we are still not there. I explained that before. We still have a lot to do. If we want to have a greater impact and to save time, we need to pool our resources, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And when I see certain regions, and I'm sorry to say, but that's a reality, or certain school trying to do something that had been done just twice or 3 times, and we know it doesn't work, maybe we should learn a bit and say, maybe it's not the way to do. So for that, we need to work together. It's as simple as that. But community of practice is about that. So I will finish anyways by explaining concretely what you can do. 5 minutes, I'm done. When you learn on to tell the truth, I should share, it would even be better, my the homepage of the website. But you can do a lot of things. So I won't have time enough to explain what you can do. So my advice to you is you become a member. You need an EU login for that, so you have it. It's not complicated. The first thing you have to know is that all what's happening on that platform is absolutely transparent and accessible to everyone, which means that member or no member, you see what's happening on the platform. But if you want to be an actor, so to put a like or a comment or whatever, to enroll to a meeting, you need to be a member. So you need to become a member. We've got 7,000 members at the moment. Who are these people? They are educators, so they can be PhD teachers teaching PhD a course, or they can be kindergarten teachers. We have students, and let's be frank, we have less students than the other categories. And we have education stakeholders. This is us people, which is people working in administration, NGOs, associations, all interested to promote green education. And these people are liaising. So the first thing there is that it's not just the fact that we are meeting beyond the national borders of our countries. Is that we are meeting also beyond the other virtual borders that are sometimes more difficult to cross, the borders between our disciplines, our professions. So the bet there, beyond the green education and all that stuff, is to say, okay, the bet is that maybe if we want to produce some interesting policies or initiatives and programs that really make a difference, it would be a good idea to have the people who are designing or deciding on these policies or initiatives and programs on the one who will implement the very thing on the ground. So again, what I'm saying is stating the obvious. You will tell me, yes, that's obvious. Okay, may be obvious, but it's not happening that much. So the idea is not just to be top down, but also bottom up. That's the buzzword. So let's try to do this, because that way we might end up having more sustainable policies on sustainability. So what you can do there, when you land on the platform, you will see a lot of things, tabs and other things, but you will have these 6 doors. I call them doors because if you open them, you've got a direct access to a part of the content of the platform. So what you can do, first door, top left, you can learn about the whole thing, of course. And in the center, at the bottom, you see one of the most important door, which is what we call the challenge hub. You have an idea you want to share with the others, whatever sort of ideas. You are seeking for support or advice, or you want to give an advice or a support. You go there. And you will have all the people having ideas and say, okay, I got the idea to develop a MOOC or whatever. And I'm very much interested to know and to learn if in Finland, maybe because I want to focus on Finland, I don't know, for whatever reason, there might be already videos that have been produced that I could, for instance, integrate if they are free of rights in my MOOC. That's just an example. You go there, right? On the right, you've got groups, specific groups. So the most important one is a group fully dedicated to GreenComp, GreenComp, that's the GreenComp community. But you also have country groups. So I'm French. I don't speak English, of course, because I'm French. So I want to liaise and engage with my colleagues on green education, but I'm interested in what's happening, of course, in the EU. So I go there. I can liaise and engage with my peers in French, and then the community coordinators of this group will help me liaise with the upper level and engage with them. That's how it works. If you go there, you will see that the activity in the country group is quite low. Why? Because at the moment, most of the people who are joining are speaking English, or they're like you, the EU sort of animals. So as soon as you are interested in Europe and you know Europe, I mean, that's a different story, but there's the possibility there. And we need to have that possibility. We can't impose English. As a youth group, I'm doing talks, interviews with top experts. I will say a couple of words on that. And if you want to do something, and that's the most important message for me today regarding education for climate. So you are working in a country, you're dealing with Erasmus programs, etc. You want to just raise awareness, but an initiative. So first, most important thing, you don't ask any permission. You are a member, it's your community. Feel fully empowered, but that's on you. Then you click on the blue button, share climate education topics, and then you will have a content management system, very intuitive one that will open, and you share what you want to share. An event, whatever. You do, you know the way it works. You put a picture, a title, etc. You explain what it is, and you share it with the others. And then I can take that topic and I can use it and give it a second push using the newsletter. So I finish, and Louise, don't worry, I'm almost done. If we limit ourselves to what's happening online, it would be wrong. So we need also to do exactly what we're doing today with you. I do that a lot, which is meeting people. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it, what you can do with online meetings. And then, because of the pandemic, a lot, something has been unlocked. So now it's nowadays it seems obvious to everyone to do that. So let's meet to confront ourselves, and we do that on a monthly basis, which is a community cafe. If you're interested to join this afternoon at 5 o'clock Brussels time, you come. I will have with me 2 amazing young ladies. One is Caterina Cacciatori, who is a GRC scientist. She's an expert. She's a chemist, expert in quality management. And she's got the idea of developing a role-playing game on water quality management. So it's very interesting. And the other one is Sofia Kekenberg. She's working in DGAC, and they're developing at the moment a MOOC on leading learning for sustainability, and they're seeking advice and support for all the people who are willing to give contribution to that MOOC. So they will come, they will explain their things, you can engage with them. That's it. We're doing that on a monthly basis. That's super informal, super easy. We are doing the same thing with GreenComp, so blue and gray thing, I think. So the next one, 18th September on community a cafe also 25 September if you miss today. I'm doing talks, so if you're interested, I'm doing interviews with people who are really the key actors on green education. It's 15 minutes, and you can learn about what they're doing. We've got a newsletter on the July one will be published tomorrow morning. And I finish, and with I promise, I'm done. Most important message of today, it's what we're doing every summer, third edition. We are doing a call. So that's if you can help us disseminating about that call, you will be praised. I will send you all my gratitude. It's supposed to end in 8th of September, but maybe we will give it a bit of extra time. It's super simple. You're involved in a green education project, you're a teacher, whatever, in various categories. You will read the details of a call. You just apply to that call. You've got to fill in an online survey. You've got to share a blog post, and that's it. You're done. And by doing that, it's not just you can win, of course, awards, but it's something which is, to my view, more important is that you're giving visibility to your project and you help us mapping the innovative actions that are being led at the moment in terms of green education in Europe. And we've got so many researchers who are telling us, and also experts like you, who are telling us, oh, what you're doing is super nice, because once the call is being done, we do a dashboard with all the project, and you just have to go on that page, and you got immediately an overview of super interesting innovative projects happening in the EU. So if you want to give us a hand, that would be highly appreciated. I thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, so thank you so much. We'll send you some of the resources as well by email or through your GCPs. Obviously, you can put your questions in the chat if you want to, or raise your hand. I'll start with, okay, so just first of all, we ask in the chat to see again the QR code for the GreenComps. I don't remember which page it was, but if we can go through your pages. On t'entend plus. Okay. Okay, and your mic is off.
No, if I don't unmute myself, of course, that won't work. So I'm not sure to the person who has the question that the QR code was just for GreenComp. Maybe, I'm not sure. I don't remember the one I put, but one you have to do, use that one.
Okay, we have the box in front of, okay.
Okay, sorry. The box is there, or I have to move it?
The box is okay, yeah.
Okay,
we can see
so
the QR
use
code.
that one, and you will access the platform. From there, you will just have to click on that one, which is the GreenComp community. You will get where you want to go.
Okay.
It's okay?
And yeah, I think it's
good. I
good.
can leave it for a moment if you want, anyways. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. So everybody can scan or just type the address. Donia asked as well, is this just addressed to teachers? And you said no, all the people involved in green education are welcomed on the platform.
I will say more than that, and I forgot to tell you that because that's very important. Of course, you are like me, a European involved in European activities. But to tell the truth, the platform is not just limited to European. And I think we must not limit ourselves to Europeans. The platform is a platform where you can access on an individual basis. So whoever you are, you're a Japanese teacher or whatever, you're interested in that, you're happy to join, and you're welcome to join. And it's interesting also. So of course, the reality is that most of our members are Europeans, but we need to confront ourselves with what's happening out there. And especially for green education, and especially for southern countries from the so-called global south, because there are super interesting things happening in their countries. So they need us, we need them. So again, that's a whole spirit. I made recently also an interview with Frank Nippold, for instance, a top expert really in green education, very interesting lad. And he's working in NOAA, which is, the North America, so the American Federal Agency on Meteorology, on the climate, and the natural activities. And the guy is interesting because he's doing a bit what I'm trying to do. So he's trying to convince his fellow scientist colleagues that yes, education matters and they should share more with education, etc. And he's doing an amazing job. And he told me exactly that, Frank, when I was interviewing him, I think 2 weeks ago or something like that. And he told me, Tremor, I'm spending like you a lot of my time online, etc. And we need to do that more. And even between the States and Europe, we don't do that enough. We should really bridge, which is the right word, beyond the big pond. We should bridge what's happening, because in the States there are super interesting things happening. And of course, there are a federation, so they are also struggling a lot with the various activities happening in the various states, a bit like us in a way. Of course, that's a big country, we're not a country, but still. So we should learn also about that and confront ourselves. I've seen that there are Finnish, for instance, in the audience. Super interesting are happening in Finland. Super interesting thing are happening in Ireland, in Sweden. So I'm not sure the average teacher involved and interested in green education in France knows what Ireland is doing. In Ireland, for instance, we've got a national strategy on green education. I stop it because I'm too talkative.
Okay, very good. We'll go through the questions. AR, I think I don't know your full name, but if you want to ask your question. You are mute, I think. Okay, well, let's AR AR to fix his audio problems. You have to reactivate the sound for us to hear you. And otherwise, we have another question. Is GreenComp game similar to the climate frisk?
Yeah.
I don't think the same functioning, but can you explain
Absolutely
a bit more?
not. Absolutely not. So first is GreenComp for green competences.
Yeah.
It's not very original. So the GreenComp game is a very basic, I should say, but it's not negative. Huh? It's a conversational game that trigger a conversation by playing the cards that are linked to SDGs, etc. The climate race is you go more into the detail of the climate, the global warming reality. So you're really learning facts and knowledge also on climate. That's a different thing. It's interesting, climate race. We've been working with them. I invited also the very founder, Cedric Ringelbach, to one of the conferences we did in the past. They're doing an amazing work, and I think they've got something like hundreds of thousands of trainers now, the climate race. So they've got a very nice impact, which is good. They are contributing to awareness raising. That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm. And we've been working with them as well and with the GCPs to try and
very good.
disseminate
Very
the
good.
climate frisk. AR, unfortunately, we still can't hear you. So either put your question in the chat, or I don't know. Do we have other questions? Question from Italy. Are some of the program to promote the Area 3? Future of alphabetization. I'm not sure I understand this question.
I'm not so sure.
Mm-hmm.
I met some of your colleagues from Indire. Amazing work. I've been living in Italy for 25 years. That helps. But I mean, you're doing a very nice work. And but I'm not sure about that on future alphabetization. I mean, for what regards the work we're doing, I got nothing that comes to my mind. Liaise with me. Maybe we can dig.
Okay, maybe that could be a question for the platform.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That would be even better, huh? To tell the truth.
Okay. There you go. And what kind of work do you do on the twin transition? So that's the green and digital.
That's an important question. So for you to know, I told you that there's a working group on school sustainability/sustainability. That group has mandated the external company. I don't remember who is doing that, by the way, to do a dedicated research on green on digital. And I'm waiting for the research, to tell the truth, because what they are trying to study is the possible synergies, but also the point of friction, I should say, that could exist between these two transitions. So now my personal bet, I think we have a problem, and I'm really here talking as a former teacher. We tend to put too much weight on the shoulders of the teachers. And we are very good, us working in administration, to come up with new priorities, new ideas. And then you have the teachers who say, okay, don't forget to do civic education. And by the way, oh, you do green, and do digital. Okay, and do this, and do that. I mean, at the end of the day, of course, they just can't make it. So we need to find also the possibilities, especially when they are learning and teaching on project-based with a project-based approach, to develop projects where they deal various issues, priorities that can be very easily combined. And to my view, combining digital and green around education project is something which is not that difficult. And then you can tick boxes. So I'm waiting for the research, but I will put that in the platform when it will be done. Do two things if you're interested in that topic. First, most important, you join the community and you help us disseminating about the community. And if you want, you can follow me on LinkedIn also, because I'm very present there and I'm sharing on LinkedIn. That's the only channel, communication channel we're really using. For the rest, it's just pure organic dissemination, and it works because we're focusing on quality rather than quantity. So if you will follow me on LinkedIn, I will share my thoughts on that research front, so you can be sure.
Okay, so I think that's the main message. Join us on the platform